Healing is an intentional action that never occurs in a silo. It takes many pieces to make a complete whole. In the same fashion, it takes the entire community to heal the entire community. And that process starts with one person at a time. This is one of those stories. Well, thank you so much for being here. It's good to see you as
You
always.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for your time. If you will, just tell the people who you are.
Okay, I'm Angela Wynn. I'm a physician assistant and I work in a community clinic in San Francisco, a public
Okay.
health clinic in San Francisco.
Awesome. And how did you choose that career?
Uh, that's been a while since I had to think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Back in the day, as a youth, I really enjoyed art, and I also was had a family member who ended up in the hospital, so we spent time with that family member in the hospital when I was a child. And I thought, oh, I'm going to go to medical school, and finished, and also wanted to travel and work in developing countries. And so I did that, came back, and by that time, I was much older. So I was like, medical school's not it. And the history of physician assistants really meshed with my belief in self-directed care
Right.
and sharing with patients the decision making about their health, and so, and also just team-based.
Yeah.
And so I won't get into the history of how the physician assistant program came about, but it works for me. It worked for me. Yeah.
Well, we love our Afro American practitioners. Like, we need y'all. Because
Yeah.
it's not really a lot of us in the field that are doing the work that you specifically do right now. And what I want to ask you, leading towards your career in working with those who are experiencing homelessness, how did you get specifically into that field?
Oh, yeah. So, right. So, going back a bit, the history of the physician assistant came about as part of the quote war on poverty,
Okay.
and the idea of having providers who would work in what they would at that time called I don't know what, poor neighborhoods or
Okay.
urban centers. I don't know,
The inner
some
city.
the inner city, that might have been it,
Yeah.
and rural communities.
Okay.
But that means you're poor and you're not white, and so that was part of it. And then I did some training with free clinics, and that's who's there, people who don't have access. And so it's gonna be black, brown, and in need of service. So yeah, that's part of how I came about it. Came about, and yeah, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, yeah. And once you jumped all the way into that, how did that affect you as a physician assistant? Like, is it an emotionally taxing situation, or is it just, I'm here to fulfill the needs of the people? Like, what is the burden of that working with people who are resource challenged, who are experiencing homelessness, who look like you and I?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, even in talking about it, I probably I'm just getting off of work, so
Yeah, yeah.
I'm full now. And
Uh-huh.
so and if I think about it and talk about it, sometimes it can be very painful. And so, but one of the things, based on some of our conversations before, is also that what's hard is to see yourself, and also to see that the number of times that patients they light up and they're so happy
Yeah.
to see, and I'm talking about patients who are black.
Yeah, yeah.
They're so happy to see a
Mhm.
black provider. They
Yeah.
just, and but the idea that there would be so much of, there's such a lack of,
Yes.
that they're
Yes.
so excited. It's kind of sad, And so, but I'm so grateful to be there and be the one to be in service to them. In terms of just the homeless, I would say that working here in San Francisco, the challenge is what's difficult is seeing patients who are born, raised, been here all their life,
Mm-hmm.
and they are Black San Franciscans,
Yeah.
and they do not have a home. They do
And-
not have a roof over their head after having lived here and had a home.
Been a
to have
native.
lost it.
Yeah.
Yes, and through some, some ugly, unscrupulous tactics
Mhm.
that I think most of us are familiar with in terms of just landlords hiking up prices of rents that have been stable for a long time. The
Mhm.
loss of, we live with our families are, your grandmother's your mother and your cousins are your siblings,
Mhm.
and so you've all been living together, and then the technicality of, well, that person is no longer here, and they were the ones who were on the lease.
Right.
And for me, that's just wrong,
Yeah.
because people have been raised in these homes and then told you have to get out. So I have a couple patients like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the direct, you're out of here. And then just the services, it's San Francisco, and whoever's watching this somewhere else will be like, you all got money out there. But that's how when I go to conferences, I kind of don't say anything because folks are struggling. But this is where we are, and so this is what my reference point is. And for if you're homeless and Black, I think while there are services, I think that it's not necessarily. What I want to say, there's an effort,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know that maybe it should be directed. There's some way to direct it towards, hey, how do we honor, take care of our Black citizens
Right.
of San Francisco, because we're being depopulated
Right.
from what's been, as I say, generations of people here. So, it's a struggle that continues.
Yeah, and thank you so much for sharing that. I want to touch on two things that you mentioned. One being a African American provider, and a woman also that is in that position of providing care, and not only providing care, but teaching people to make health-informed decisions. But then at the same time, these same people who were, say, displaced because of Blockbuster or Redline, or whatever that case might be, within their housing situation, it's like, okay, do you feel that as a physician assistant, you have more than just the duty to help them with their health-focused initiatives, or is it somewhat like a holistic thing? And I'll say it from this standpoint also. I'm a graduate of the HBCU. So of course we go to school to learn book knowledge, but our teachers and our professors become like that extended family that really help to move you holistically along the path to make you educated and acclimated so that you can function in the world. And have you seen a lot of that becoming a part of your experience as a physician assistant working with the population you serve?
I'm going back to my experience of where I went to college, university, and that was, Black professors did double duty.
Yeah.
They had to do double duty. You have to be safe in these in white institutions, and that was what they did. They provided safety and the education of how to navigate through that institution. But in my work, I know that I have conversations with patients about that, the same thing. How do you navigate? And we do have a connection to be able to reflect on, we're in this institution, we're in the system, we know, and that's where there's a kinship and shorthand, in terms of talking about some things that makes it holistic. It's never
Just
you know
one
your blood
thing.
pressure is elevated and this is the medicine. You take that, you're
Right,
good.
you're good.
And,
It's like, mm-mm.
no, it's about family history. It's just you have to listen and engage in a different way, and it's a privilege. And, yeah, so
Okay.
it's definitely to be a Black provider with Black patients. There is a holistic approach. I have a holistic approach with all my patients.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
but as I said, but no, it's different.
Yeah.
It is different. When it's me, a Black woman with a Black patient, there's a difference for
Yeah.
sure.
Wearing many hats, as they say. I want to just pivot briefly to speak about some of the things that you may or may not have seen in your just tenure as a physician assistant working with those experiencing homelessness in marginal situations. As you know, and me also, here in San Francisco, we do have a problem that's compounded a lot by different institutionalized things that cause people to fall prey to the system. So we have, of course, homelessness is one thing, but a lot of people are homeless because of what you expressed. They did not have the knowledge base, and it wasn't taught to them how to keep their housing, or grandmother died and they weren't on the lease, this, that, and the other. When we talk about those who are experiencing homelessness and those who are of color here in this city, do you see a lot of the institutionalization of these brothers and sisters who are not only your patients, but may have been, I would say, seen as repeat offenders in the judicial system? Like if you're using substances, or if you're selling substances, or if you're just caught in the mix of things. Do you see a lot of that in your clinic?
Do we see? I mean, the patient population that I serve they are there's homelessness, but homelessness across the board is complicated and often tied to drug addiction and mental illness. Behavioral health disorders is the newer term, and but and also some a portion that have been wrapped up in the judicial system in part history of incarceration. But you're wondering in terms of
one of those
that-
hats that you wear. Do you find yourself having to navigate that with them also?
There's the phone calls to probation, the halfway houses, and also, hey, what's your and as a medical provider having this wearing a social worker hat of navigating what's your plan, right? And I'm part of that. It's not just your medical and your physical health, but this is part of the holistic part of what's the plan for what are the next steps. And that's where the system is challenging because there's just enough to get you here, including, but not to take you all the way.
All the way.
And by that I mean just, I've had patients, with poor literacy or cannot read, and coming out of incarceration, and that's what they want. They really want that, and then having a program that's not really doing it or not able. They need more. They need more. I saw someone today who is in recovery, HIV positive. Patient population also have a percentage of patients who are HIV positive, and they've done their part.
Yeah.
And they don't have housing.
And still don't have housing.
And so they're holding on to their recovery, and I'm talking mental illness. They're not using opiates. They reconnected with family. So they're
Mhm.
doing all those. And when someone is there and so vulnerable,
Yeah.
we have to have that next step
Right.
that's
To take them all the way.
to take them all the way, because they've done their part.
Okay.
And so that's part of the challenge. That's definitely part of the challenge.
I can definitely understand or empathize with where you're coming from. Just in being a resident here and then doing the type of work that I do.
Yeah.
But in saying that, I've got one last question for you.
Sure.
In all of your experience in being a physician assistant and being one of the, I would say in a spiritual sense, one of the healers of the community, do you feel that there is hope for San Francisco?
I do. So so this is so do you feel there's hope? So I
Yes.
am hopeful.
Yes.
I am hopeful. Because right, that's what
You gotta have it.
that
Yeah.
hope. That's what gets you
Yeah.
every day. That's what you step out on, right?
Yeah,
You step
yeah.
out on faith. But it's never looked like this.
Okay.
And it's not just San Francisco.
Right.
So we that's getting into the politics of it. And So am I optimistic? It's ugly. Make it ugly before it gets better.
Yeah.
And what's bad about that is all the people will be hurt.
Yeah.
So that's you stay here and you keep participating and
Yeah,
taking care
yeah,
of folks, and the
yeah.
goal of trying to take care is move through this ugliness and have them here for it will get better.
Right.
It will get better.
I had an old professor that used to say, we have to build as we climb. And as we're pushing folks through, we're also creating that infrastructure to make sure that there are services in place to, even if it's just literacy skills, just to help people just get a little bit closer to where they want and need to be a fully functioning individual in society. Because a lot of people I really do feel want that. But just things happen,
Well, yeah, things happen, but I think, there's these waves, right?
Yeah.
So I was talking to somebody today, and he's like, I'm not worried. He's an older gentleman, and he's like, I'm not worried about that fentanyl. He's worried about the young black kids who are taking opiates, taking fentanyl,
Yeah.
and dying.
And
The
dying.
rate of death from fentanyl overdoses among black folks in San Francisco is
Have you seen a lot of that on your
ugly.
patient panel, like with the younger people?
My patient population doesn't skew younger.
Okay.
And I think that's part of just where we are. But any death is horrible, accidental death like that. But the numbers and percentage of people in young 30 is young.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like,
I mean, hey, I'm 37.
right, I was going
so-
to say that's young. Yes, that is young. But the point being is, so he was just saying how, looking back, he's in his 70s, he went through addiction with crack cocaine. And so he's pained to see. So he was like, hey, we have a generation that's like, I'm not going to do that. Right? And then here comes
Yeah.
So, you got to keep, you're pushing up against that tide. We'll see what happens politically, but in the meanwhile, I feel like I got an obligation to just, hey, let's take care of the things that we can.
That
What
we
can I
can.
do for you to keep you here and moving forward?
And we appreciate you for that. So again, thank you so much for spending some time with me today and just sharing your expertise about what a day is in the life of a physician assistant, a healer in the community who's really doing the work of pushing us forward. So again, thank you so much.
In my little way,
Yes.
Listen,
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks so much.